Nigga! What's up? This your boy Super Mario 1990 coming at you with a review of Marvel's Avengers. This is Square Enix's take on the beat 'em up genre, the superhero beat 'em up genre. And I must say it was pretty good. I did enjoy it. I had really high expectations, especially it being a Avengers game and having that license. And I think they did a pretty good job with it. So the story, it starts out with A-Day, which is basically Comic-Con for the Avengers. Everyone gets to show their love and appreciation for the heroes. And Kamala Khan, the character that we follow throughout this whole game, she is actually there and she's a huge super fan, probably the biggest fan. At least in our eyes, when you play the game, that's what you'll kind of see. And on that day, something ends up happening. People end up getting hurt, and the Avengers get blamed for a mishap, a very huge mishap. And what happens is a lot of people end up turning inhuman, which is the term for people that were there in the vicinity of the area when things got destroyed. They ended up having powers. They ended up being what's that word? Mutating, kind of like mutants, basically. And so a lot of people had all these strange powers, couldn't really control them. Kamala Khan is one of like the many that had actually gotten inherited some new powers and has become an inhuman. And so over the past few years, the Avengers, they disbanded. They were, banned criminals basically and blamed for the events of A-Day. So Kamala Khan finally comes across something that can clear their names, and so she ventures off using her superpowers for good to try to help out. And she comes across Bruce Banner at first and tries to convince him to gather up everybody, and so they can see what really went on and fight who they need to fight and clear their name and be heroes again. So it's basically what this game does throughout the whole way, and they do it in such a great job too. When you come across Bruce Banner, it's kind of you two, Kamala Khan and the Hulk, and then they kind of recruit from there. And as you go through the game and progress, you unlock more of the characters and you get to use them down the road. Now there are few missions, only a few, and only like a few moments where you're locked into being a specific character. But for the most part, you get to pick who you want to use when you unlock them. You have to play the game and unlock them and get further in the game. So they're not all available, at once, except for the very beginning because they're all there in the very beginning. But when they're broken up, it's about getting them back together, basically assembling the Avengers throughout the game. And it could probably get a little annoying to you, those parts. Like I said, there's only like a few parts where they do that. But if you have like a certain character that you really like or that you really favor, and the character that you don't like so much, but you have to use them, it might be kind of like, I wish I could use this character in this situation as opposed to using Thor if I could use the Hulk. But like I said, it only happens a couple of times, and it's not to the point where it's like really hard to progress or anything. The game I think is pretty easy. So diving into the gameplay, is it's one of those things where it's like it's really fun at first, but then it kind of just gets repetitive. I don't know. I would say it lacks variety. I would say sort of. There's nothing that really keeps it fresh after a while. Like with the characters, I will say they do an awesome job of keeping them authentic. Like every character you play with feels like that actual character. If you're using Iron Man, you feel like you're Iron Man. You feel like you're Thor. You feel like you're Captain America, Black Widow, etc., etc. Like you feel like you're these characters because their strengths and weaknesses are very authentic to these heroes. So that was really good. So with that being said, that means they play different as well. And so with that, some problems can come about because it depends on your preferences as a player. You may like all the characters as far as playing with them, or you just may like a few. For me, I really enjoyed Black Widow. She was my favorite. I enjoyed playing with Iron Man as well. So it was basically like Black Widow and Iron Man were my favorites. And then it's like, okay, Captain America was cool. Thor was all right. He was felt a little stiff to me. The Hulk, I really liked. He was the one I really liked in the beginning. But then after a while, when you keep using them and using them, it's kind of like Hulk gets a little boring after a while. Kamala Khan, probably like the weakest link for me as far as using. She has some cool powers, some cool stretchy powers, but her movements were like a little stiff. And she is kind of like the rookie of the game too, so maybe it was designed that way on purpose, maybe. But I just really, really enjoyed using Black Widow and Iron Man the most. Iron Man had this cool thing where he can fly. There were like a couple of sections in the game too, like you can fly through, and it kind of felt like old school back in the day playing like Star Fox or like any game where you can like kind of control like an F-16 or something. He was just flying around really, really fast, and he can shoot those unibeams and take enemies down. So that was really fun. And then of course he can fight too. And then Black Widow. When you use Black Widow, to me, it felt like playing a whole different game. Now, this was I was trying to get away with using Black Widow as much as I could. Like every single time I can pick a character and she was available, I was picking her because she was really, really quick. She had some really nice fancy jump moves. I liked her grapple moves too, like grappling from like you did like jump from ledge to ledge sometimes. And she's got like a really cool way of like shooting a grapple gun, hooking on to something, and then jumping and leaping to the next ledge or next platform or whatever. Kamala Khan has it where she stretches her arms out, and then Thor and Iron Man they can just fly. So it's like really easy for them. Hulk has this huge lunge that he does, and Captain America can like run on walls, kind of like Black Ops 3 style. He can run on walls, and then he can do like if you double jump, he'll do like a little somersault in the air. That was pretty cool. The animation I feel like was a little stiff, but it was still kind of fun though. But yeah, Black Widow, like she has the guns, she has the cool fighting ability. She's very quick, nice aerial moves, like jumping in the air and just doing all this crazy stuff. It was really, really fun. Like it was, I don't want to quite say almost like playing Spider-Man from 2018 or even Miles Morales, but I mean it was somewhat like that. It was pretty fun. It was like a whole different game using her. So it was kind of like things like that where it's like it's good for the game, but then it's like as a collective, it's like ooh, it makes the other characters kind of look like. But that's if your interest and your preferences are in line more with that style of gameplay. It's basically more on your style of gameplay. You might actually embrace all of the characters, or you may just be like, well, I'm not really big on a character that does this or has this kind of strength. I pretty much like these kind of characters. So it just kind of depends on your preferences. Um, I did like every single character though, as far as how they were written and how they were developed. Like the plot and the story and the way everything develops and goes along. Everything was really good, and the pacing was good too. The game is not very long, so they keep it moving, they keep it to the point, but at the same time, you understand what's going on. If you're paying attention, you understand what's going on. It doesn't go over your head. It does a good job of being very interesting and engaging in the characters and how they interact with each other. Everything is really, really good, and it's authentic as well too. So it's really, really enjoyable. Like I think for me, that's like the biggest strength of the game is its story and the characters, how they react to one another, their dynamics, how they were created, how they were developed within this story. Even the villains as well. I will say, from the villain standpoint, I would have liked a few more cutscenes with them, a little more development into them. I mean, you get enough to know what's going on and enough to where everything is clear. So there's nothing that's like missing. You just wish there was a little more there. But at the same time, it's all about the superheroes, right? So of course it's about the Avengers. But they do a really, really good job there with them. So yeah, all in all, it was a really good story. The gameplay, I think it really just depends on your style of playing, your preferences. I found it to be actually good though. Like there wasn't a character that I truly just didn't like. I liked all the characters, but I did favor some way more than others. And that was that there. But yeah, overall, I would say it was a solid game. I give it an 8 out of 10. Mainly my main highlights are the plot, the story, the characters. So I think they did leave off where they look like they want to do future games, maybe sequels. Um, how that would go, I don't know. I'm very interested to see, how it would go. Because the story and the characters were so good, I really do want to keep seeing the game grow and seeing more out of the franchise. But it's not quite on par like with some like the best games you've played. Like if you played the Arkham games, or if you played like I mentioned earlier, Spider-Man. In my opinion, Spider-Man is the best. as far as this genre goes. So it wasn't up there, but it was enjoyable. I'd say it was a solid game, more than mediocre. Way more than mediocre, I would say. It's just that I wish they would have had a good job of doing something like with the variety of the gameplay, kind of like something to just keep it fresh and keep it fun, because it does get a little repetitive after a while. I mean, you're really just going from point A to point B, smashing everything in sight. And what was really cool though was like when you unlock enough Avengers, you get a whole lot of banter in the background, which was really cool. It made it feel like watching like one of the movies. So that was really, really nice. Really cool touch. Like they did a good job of nailing these characters and their authenticity too. So that was really fun. But yeah, as far as like just playing, which is like the whole meat of the game, it's kind of like after a little while, it's kind of like, okay, been there, done that. But the settings are great, and the graphics are really, really good looking. Like, not even just the cutscenes, like actually playing through. And this is from a base PS4 player, too. So I can just imagine if you're on the Pro or if you have an upgrade to the PS5. I believe the upgrade to PS5 is available now, I think. Or if it's not, it will be. But I mean, I'm pretty sure it'll look a whole lot better. Like, I was impressed just from the base PS4. So I'm like, if I was to upgrade, I'm pretty sure I would be, even more like, ooh, wow. So yeah, it was like really nice, really vibrant, really colorful. And yeah, I think that's really just the only downfall is just um the combat preferences and then just like a sort of lack of variety throughout the games. Hopefully they find a way to keep people more engaged and give people more to do, but down the road. But there are going to be free DLC packs and new characters having their own storylines. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that adds more to the game. And like I said, I'm looking forward to their new directions. But yeah, this is your boy Super Mario 1990. Let me know what y'all thought of this game if you've played it. But yeah, I'm out. Peace in.